I think what we need to talk about, which we haven't talked about at all. I'm surprised. I'm kind of I feel like this kind of just wave kind of came over us and went over our heads, and we're waiting for the next wave to come around. Is AI?
Oh,
We haven't spoken about that,
that's interesting that it hasn't come up. Yeah. Um,
and it comes up in our lives every single day, and it's just kind of weird. Um, I, I don't like it. And I'll tell you the reason why I don't like it is only because I see like all the Facebook, feeds. The one that drives me up the wall is like, um, Mick Jagger celebrating his birthday, and he's got a birthday cake in his hand, and it says Mick Jagger, you know, I don't know, 85 years old or some shit like that.
Right.
Like nobody has no. Do you ever get a birthday cake with your first and last name on it and with your big age on it?
Right,
No,
right.
I mean, but that's like a big AI thing. The other thing that I just read before was somebody posted a thing about Radio Shack. Do you remember Radio Shack?
Of course.
So they had a picture and they go, "Oh yeah, this is Radio Shack in the Golden Day," and it was a store with these guys with sideburns that were like about maybe 4 inches wide, coming down the side of the face. And they were selling all kinds of equipment that, Radio Shack only sold their crap, which was realistic or techniques.
Right.
They had like two brands. So it was obviously a fake, but, as many people that can detect the AI BS, there's a lot of people that just don't see it, and they're like, commenting like, "Oh yeah, I remember this." Is like this isn't real. This is all fake. And I see it with mainframe computers. They'll show mainframe computer rooms that the configuration just didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
The time, the way the machines were all configured and stuff like that, it's all phony. So my point is that we're getting into an age where a lot of this stuff is, I don't know, suspicious. We don't know what to believe and, what's fake.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this was not to cut you off, but I mean that two things. One, I'm very surprised to hear you, considering how how much fun I thought you've been having this whole time with AI. I'm surprised to hear such a negative thing. But secondly, when you go into the comments of what the kids these days are calling AI slop, I'm sure you've heard that term. I'm surprised by how much more perceptive, and this may be because this is the younger generation that we're talking about here. Like they seem to have a much keener eye than I expected, which is another way of saying that way before AI started getting way before AI started getting good, getting convincing, there was a lot of predictions that this was going to be a problem, that the exact thing that you're bothered by. And, I don't know about you, I'm just sort of like holding on to the railing here.
Yeah, I can detect a lot of it and I know it's BS, but the problem I have with this is that a lot of people can't,
Right.
and they're embracing it thinking that, oh yeah, how many, here's another one. This one gets me too, is you'll see Hollywood actors, and I'm talking about A-list actors like Brad Pitt. He's in a hospital room. And he's like, well, he's got like a tube up his nose. I was like, wait a minute. First of all, I wouldn't be doing that. I wouldn't be posting a picture of me, and
Right.
I've been in the hospital many times. I'm not going to be posting that shit but this is what they do. And people are like, oh, get well, Brad. I hope you recover. I hope everything is okay. It's like, people, it's fucked up.
Now, what I've been thinking about a lot is, you know, The controversy that I was expecting was this idea of deep fakes, which ironically is not a term that you hear that often. We thought that the term deep fake was going to be coming up constantly. The more that the more that politicians start getting threatened by fake AI videos, never mind celebrities like what you just said. But the controversy from where I'm sitting looks like it's not so much deep fakes as it is these data centers that are taking up natural resources. I was just talking to somebody online a few days ago because I have a burning question that I still haven't been satisfied with as far as the answer, and that's the question of, as you may know, these data centers need fresh water constantly rushing through them. And my question is, why can't we use non-potable gray water for this? Right? Like, why does it need to be fresh?
Yeah, I don't know. I hear you, and I don't know. I don't understand the fresh water. The only thing I can think of is that with the fresh water, the reason why it's soaking it up is that it isn't a closed loop. But the problem is the water is being evaporated
Okay.
because it's got to go through a chilling tower and all this other bullshit, and it's cooled down that way exterior. So that's the only reason why I think, because in the mainframe business where I was, we used closed loop water, and they would add chemicals. Glycerol was the chemical that they would add. It was like an antifreeze to the water, but that was closed. But it did, I think, evaporate. Because it it got heated, then they would actually have to cool it down. They use these chilling towers in order to cool it down, and you'd see like the steam coming up. So
Yeah.
that's where I think the water is going. So that to replenish it, they would have to add the new water in. That's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah,
Uh,
somebody was had fun reducing the. I mean, this guy. I don't know if there's a show called Breaking Points online, hosted by this guy Sagar and Jetty, who is he's one half. They're trying to do sort of an internet version of that show Hannity and Combs from 600 years ago. Do you remember that show? They had they had one guy representing the Republicans, one guy representing the Democrats. So on this show, Sagar is technically the conservative of the two, and he is he's got more conservative values in terms of sexuality and pornography, and also happens to absolutely hate AI, and so he had a good time reducing the situation down to a problem of natural resources being sucked up and destroyed for these data centers, so that 40-year-old men in their mother's basement can design their own AI-based pornography, because just as we know with any technology, weapons and sex are usually the first two places that the human id wants to go to for its main use.
oh well, yeah. I mean, the joke is that sex build the internet, right? I
Right.
mean, that was the first web pages were all these porn sites, and they're still existing today. It hasn't gone away, and it killed all the publishing. Penthouse and Playboy. I mean, it's all there. But the interesting thing, we're talking about the energy of the use of this thing. Now, what Tesla is proposing, this is kind of interesting, and I can see this happening, is building a data center in space.
Mm.
Because in space, you don't need the chilling. I mean, it's all right there. And then you need the energy. You put you know, uh, I guess, I don't know if solar would be enough to power these things. But if they can do like a nuclear reactor up there, which they've done, that I think it was the the Voyager, one of those satellites had plutonium in it. It was a nuclear device that actually propelled it.
Yeah.
But I can see them doing a data center literally in space where they can just like a big ass international space station, but as a data center and do it that way. No
Right.
chilling because it's like zero
Right.
degrees in there.
Hmm.
Uh,
I don't. I'm really, again, I gotta say, I'm surprised that you may have a more negative view of AI than me. I mean, because um, in theory, I should be the one that's more upset as somebody whose illustration jobs are basically being taken away from me with this, because illustration was the first to go. Don't get me started on music. Don't get me started on I mean, I'm not shedding a tear for the music industry necessarily. I mean, but the thing, what you can do with a click of a button now, with what I never thought I would see in my lifetime, which was intelligible lyrics written for you after just writing a one sentence prompt, requesting the type of music that you want. I mean, that alone is frightening to me. But at the same time, there was on the radio this morning, somebody was being interviewed about the Academy Awards, and like the interviewer was asking them, how are you guys giving? I think it was somebody from the Academy or represents the Academy, and they were like, what are you guys going to do moving forward with films that use AI in the production of the film? And he said something that, I didn't realize was even being talked about in the film industry, which is that it is being accepted to a certain degree as a tool, that AI is being seen as a tool that ultimately has a human being using that tool. And it got my gears going and wondering that maybe I have less of a problem with the filmmaking art form using AI as opposed to music. I mean, I'm still, this thought is still a work in progress, but
well, you talk about film and all that stuff, but I watch a lot of YouTube documentaries. I love like the World War II stuff and all that stuff. Here's the problem I have. I'm looking at a documentary about, let's say, the Battle of the Bulge, for example. And this particular YouTube feed is got like German soldiers and all this other stuff. And I realized that these aren't real actors. They're AI generated people. And you can tell, you know what I'm saying? Like, this isn't like original because, the war was like over 80 years ago,
oh, I see.
that this thing is just too real and too phony.
Yeah, yeah.
And, and but again, it's a documentary about the war, and younger people may not differentiate that. They may be looking at this like, oh yeah, I saw that, and it was
Mhm.
unbelievable. And it's like, wait a minute, that wasn't real. Those people in that were not even real actors. It's all phony.
This was
It's
what?
really
Sorry,
incredible.
which documentary is this?
No, it's a whole bunch YouTube videos where
Oh, oh, yeah, yeah.
you know, and they'll talk about, let's say, a particular battle, and they'll show these actors, but the actors are all, you can see it's AI generated. They're not real,
Right,
and that's
right.
that's the crazy thing.
Yeah, I mean,
And like you talk about a deep fake. I mean, this is like a historical event that they've generated with this AI, and it's not real.
yeah.
And
No,
they can change that narrative anywhere they want. Make like Hollywood does. Yeah, we took our liberties and changing the story around to make it
right.
interesting, but you can't do that with real historical events. To me, it's
No, deep fakes are it's it's an existential threat, without a doubt. It was even before back when, I don't know if you remember seeing those videos when when AI video first came along, and the best we had was Will Smith eating spaghetti, and it was it was an absolute mess. And this was what, less than 5 years ago, and people were like, okay, well, I think we're going to be fine. Video's not going to be anything close to convincing. Now, of course, the rest is history, because to your point, I mean, maybe we're in a certain amount of denial about how, incredibly convincing it is. The reason I brought up the film thing was, I'm trying to remember why I brought up the film thing. In theory, from a creative standpoint, I mean, it's, in all honesty, it's such an existential threat to us. Which is no, in other words, I agree with you very much. I'm as frightened as you are about the way that people of all generations, young and old, can be convinced that these things are real. I almost feel like I shouldn't even be talking about the ways that the creative industries get affected, because yeah, we've got political unrest that can be easily exploited with it. Yeah.
oh yeah. I mean, or sort of political unrest. And you can actually take those things, like you ever see like the police event where there's a riot going on, whatever. But a lot of that could all be manipulated into whatever you want. You
Right.
can change that to make it look like, yeah, the cops arrested this guy because he had a gun and he was ready to fire, and he didn't have a gun. They can manipulate that, and it gets a little crazy. What's real and what's not real, and then what you've done is incited a whole crowd
Right. Right.
into thinking that this is, you know so it's, and the craziness of this is it's not going away.
Right.
It's never going to go away. People think that, oh yeah, well, this is just going to be a fad. No.
No, no. Pandora's box is open.
And the toothpaste is outside the
Right.
tube.
Yeah,
You
you
can't put it back in.
cannot put it
That's
back
it.
in. That's right.
Here's a chilling thought. Meta was building a data center in, I think it was in Arkansas. Okay. And it was like a huge site. Um, it was like the size of like two Home Depots, two buildings for redundancy. Here's the problem. It was a classical data center, classical being the way, servers and, storage units, the way a regular data center is, as opposed to a AI data center.
Mm,
AI data centers are different because what happens is the chillers, what we talked about to keep everything cool, but the water is all on the roof. So this thing was designed the wrong way. They had a classical design. They were building it. They realized how AI was taking over the world. They actually stopped building the data center, pulled it down, whatever they had up, and redesigned it for an AI data center.
wow.
So my point being is they're going full hardcore press in one direction. This isn't like, we're going to dabble with this. They're going all in, and everybody's all in on it. Uh, y- you know, um, here's the funny part. Talk about AI. IBM got used Anthropic. You know that company? You've probably heard of it.
Yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an AI company. They have like an agent called Claude, which basically will do all your work.
I see.
So I- IBM went into partnership to go out to to sell this with their clients because IBM's got like they're in like 160 countries around the world. So it was like a great thing. But here's the thing is that Anthropic looked at IBM's business and said, you know what? We can have Claude do a lot of your consulting.
Ah,
And, you know, this was going to eliminate a big nut of IBM's business, which was IBM's consulting. If they can have Claude do it, it would be eliminating that whole business. So the stock went down.
oh wow.
So, talk about shoot yourself in the foot. You went into partnership with these people, and these people were actually going to take away some of your business. So it's really crazy. Again, we talked about the toothpaste leaving the tube. It's not going to go back in. I mean, once this thing gets out there,
Yeah.
why would I pay X amount of dollars for IBM have human beings as a consultant as opposed to Claude as an agent, which is going to be a shitload cheaper than that. So it's going to go forward.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's got to be. So you don't see any positives that it's bringing into your life personally?
Well, all right. So I'm going to be guilty of something.
Yeah.
Grandma passed away, a couple of years ago, and I used ChatGPT for the eulogy. Guilty, Your Honor. I mean, I put a lot of words into it, and then when they built it all out, I basically went in and just basically customized, cleaned it up a little bit. But the reality of it all is, you know, my little scatterbrain couldn't get those thoughts and things together. And ChatGPT did an excellent job of doing it. Uh, I'll also tell you this is that my brother-in-law, who's like an international lawyer with fintech, and he tells me he uses a Gemini, which is uh, uh, the Google version of
Right.
ChatGPT,
Yeah.
and he uses it all the time, for his work. I mean, because I don't know. I guess he doesn't want to, think about what he needs to put out there. He puts out a few sentences and it gets generated, and he'll probably just do a little bit of fine tuning, but he uses it a lot.
What is his job?
His job is he's like his specialty. He's a lawyer, but his specialty is fintech, crypto coins, all of that stuff, all the legality, what needs to be done. I guess he does that part. So I don't know too much. It gets a little bit over my head and whatever it
Yeah.
is. But he's a fintech lawyer out there. It's there's a few of them out there. It's not a very unique, but it is a niche business. In lawyering, it's not like you got real estate, you got this that, the other thing. He's into this fintech stuff. Financial. It's fintech is financial technology. That's
Oh, it's a shorthand.
right.
I see.
So,
Man.
I was just reading something about before we came on. You're gonna get a kick out of this. Donny Osmond. You know who Donny Osmond is, right?
What?
So Donny Osmond is doing. He's got his. What do you call them when they do a show? Residency. He's got a residency Vegas show, and he's doing a duet with the 14-year-old self. And
Oh boy.
of the song that he's doing is Puppy Love.
Oh boy.
And that's kind of weird because if you look at Donny Osmond today, he looks just like Wayne Newton. He's like
What
fat.
is his hair white now?
No, his hair is like
It's dyed black.
colored
Yeah.
dyed black. He looks just like Wayne
Like
Newton.
Wayne Newton, right?
And, to do a duet with a 14-year-old self with a song called Puppy Love, I don't know if that's kind of appropriate.
No.
It looks like a pedo type of love.
Right. That's a good point, man. Well, have you seen any footage from it, or is it's a work in progress,
Uh, I don't know.
or you're just refusing to watch it? I don't know if I am kind of curious to see it, but I'm curious if you saw a few years ago when what was hard for me to watch was when they got Frankie Valli to come out on stage. If ever there was a time to use AI for something, I mean, to spruce somebody, to
You
Inject
know,
racism.
it is so crazy. I would actually go see it as a circus act because I mean it's so phony. I mean he's on stage, Sherry, and the guy is like,
Right.
and he's got like four guys
Yeah.
backing him up. They're doing all the high notes, and he's like,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
let's come out tonight.
well, is he? I mean, was he lip syncing? I mean, I
Yeah, he can't sing.
he wasn't. I mean, I thought he looks like a wax statue up there.
Yes, yes. Do you remember the Kodak Theater at Disneyland,
Yeah.
where they have like the different phases of
Right.
the in the future? He's like one of those robots. Ah.
Yeah. Well, that's why I'm blown away that if he's not lip syncing, I mean, that's pretty ironic considering how spry some of these musicians are that are jumping around on stage out of breath. Uh, Axl Rose from Guns N' Roses, like, that's hard enough to watch, but at least he's not lip syncing. If Frankie Valli's lip syncing,
Oh, Frank, yeah. And it was a few years ago. I remember seeing Frankie Valli in he was doing like the Macy's fireworks, whatever, and he looked pretty good. But his health is not there. I'm looking at Puppy Love with
Oh
Donny
yeah.
Osmond, but it's not. It's the original. It's the 14-year-old. He reminds me of Justin Bieber when he was younger. But I
Let's see
don't
here.
see the split screen. Yeah, Donny Osmond is not the same.
um, Donny Osmond. Well, while we're looking for that, we've got about 8 minutes left, and there's one thing that I wanted to talk about. Obviously, we've done a pretty damn good job of avoiding the Middle East on this show, but I do want to hear your thoughts on one take that I have on what's been going on the past couple days. Here's my question, and for all I know, you may agree with me on this. Seeing as how I have no idea where you stand on Iran, we're about to find out, ladies and gentlemen. So, where, I ask, is Trump's international bully personality when we actually need it? Why was it so hard for him to stand up to Netanyahu and just be like, no, we're actually not going to go to war with Iran, even though that's, what your warmongering desires are next after Gaza. And the last thing I'll say is what's baffling to me is that, as much as people want to say, oh, well, we've been in Israel's pocket for decades, we've been the lapdog, that's been the one exception for all presidents, yada, yada, yada. Trump there was a point where I think it's somewhere around the time when he first came into office, it looked like he was going to stand up to Netanyahu. It looked like he was going to, be the exact rogue that got him, that got himself elected on, on such an unpredictable type of aggression. But as it turns out, I mean, like the degree to which Trump completely capitulated to Israel is mind blowing and disturbing.
Well, all right. So I'll start off with this: is that the first casualty of war? Do you know what that is? The first casualty of war is
What?
what is? Okay, the first casualty of war is the truth. Okay, and you know one of the things they're talking about is that I don't believe this, but they were saying that Iran was going to attack the United States on the West Coast. You heard that, right?
That's absolute bullocks.
I don't believe it. I don't know where they get the intelli from.
No.
If it was true, I would say blow the motherfuckers off the planet. Because we're not gonna. But
The West Coast.
like I said, the first casualty of war is the truth, and that's what I don't like is all of this BS that goes on, and it happens on both sides. Um, one of the things that they talked about was, oh, we're not going to be like George Bush and say mission accomplished. Well, you know what? Trump was going out there saying, yeah, their Navy's gone.
Yeah.
There's that 85%. All right. I turned on the news this morning. They blew up a fucking tanker in that Straits of Hormuz.
Yeah.
You didn't contain this. Don't be telling me that this war is going to be over in like a matter of,
No.
days.
No, he's absolutely schizophrenic in the way that one minute he says it's going to be real quick. The next minute he says, a couple weeks ago he said something like, to end the war now would be boring. We're gonna think this war is gonna go on for a while, and trust me, it's not gonna be boring. It's like that's borders on sociopathic, but ultimately, yeah. I mean, it sounds like we're on the same page there because this is what we know for sure. By the way, is that this is definitely not about weapons, about ending nuclear weapons. And I could have told you that weeks ago when they tried to give us this line of bull that this was a preemptive strike. Okay, well, if it was preemptive, then supposedly having something to do with nuclear weapons, then why are we also pointing to history as the motivator for this? And of course, now we know the reason is because of the the biblical land rights that Israel believes they have for the area. So this has nothing to do with weapons.
No, I didn't hear that. You're saying that Israel is going to try and claim land from Iran?
I'm saying that the Israel's desire to attack Iran has nothing to do with a preemptive fear of future attacks from nuclear weapons, but quite on the contrary, is in reference to biblical history, where Israel wants. I think it was Leviticus or it was some book, from the Torah that Netanyahu pointed to as, in talk about a preemptive something, talk about being premature in your celebration as if the operation is already over. The second that bombs started falling in Iran, Netanyahu and the Israeli press was already talking about how big of a deal this is because of biblical scripture that points to that land belonging to Israel. I can't point to the specific quotes.
I could tell you this is that that's never going to happen, and I'll tell you why that's not going to happen in a second. Is that the Arab states aren't going to go for that. Right now we have support from the Arab state, but to have Israel come into Iran, that ain't going to happen. I mean, they're not going to put up with that. And the other thing is, I just found this out the other day. I didn't realize there's two Muslim fractions out there.
Right.
You got the Shiites and
And
you've got the Sunnis, right?
yeah.
And the Shiites are, this is kind of weird. The Shiites are in Iran and the Sunnis are in Iraq.
Iraq, yeah.
And that's when they had that war, that 9-year war against each other. It was a Muslim war, but it was against the Shiites against the Sunnis. So, to tell you the truth, I have no idea which is good and which is bad. But I mean, that's it, it's almost like, I guess, a Protestant versus a Catholic. They're both Christians, but
Right.
they're different fractions. And
Yeah, well, that was an issue. I mean, that was an issue in Iraq, because there were Sunnis in the north. That I mean, when during the when George W. was in office, during I keep wanting to call it Desert Storm. What was George W.
well, George, no, Daddy Bush was doesn't.
Yeah, that was I know. What was George W.'s version? That was
Well, that was the Iraqi war.
I know, but I'm trying to remember what the operation was called. Anyway, it was the factions of Sunni versus Shiite was a big part of the reason why the post-Saddam state of Iraq was such a mess, was because the idea that there was going to be any sort of hand-holding kumbaya celebration of the fall of Saddam was a total joke, and that's why this whole Iran thing it's going to cut us off. And I'm going to call you in a second. But this whole Iran thing is so similar. It just cut on.
And W goes, yeah, we're going to go to war with Iraq. I go, dude, all of those guys that were on the plane, the hijackers, were from Saudi Arabia. Shouldn't we be bombing Saudi Arabia?
Right.
So it made no sense, that whole thing. And let's face it, there were no weapons of mass destruction.
Absolutely.
Everybody knew it. But you know what? They all made this big story about it. Even the Germans had said there is no fucking weapons of mass destruction. But they all kind of killed those stories.
Mm-hmm.
So again, we're going back to that adage about the first casualty of war is the truth, and that was all BS.
It's a great one. I don't think I've heard that one before. That's a good one.
Oh yeah.
First casualty of war. Yeah.
I mean, even Pearl Harbor. To think that that wasn't a planned attack. That we didn't know about it, and we just kind of left all our bases there. There's so many reports that they didn't know about it, and they wanted that to happen so they can get the whole country behind it in order to say we're going to have to get into this war, because we didn't enter the war until 1941.
Well, not to open up a can of worms, but you realize that that was also something that certain people, like Charlie Kirk of all people, right after October 7th, he was theorizing that there might have been a similar thing going on with Netanyahu and the October 7th attacks. I mean, have you heard about that theory? That Charlie Kirk didn't go so far as to say that this was that October 7th was orchestrated by Netanyahu, but in his words, the way he put it, and again, this of all people, Charlie Kirk, who is a fundamentalist Christian, who like many of his type, is always standing behind Israel. He had the chutzpah to say, what if there was a stand down order similar to Pearl Harbor, so that Netanyahu would have an excuse to absolutely raze Gaza to the ground?
That's interesting. I don't know. have some kind of intelligence to know that that was going to happen, and maybe, and if they did, they kind of basically suppressed it and made it happen.
Well, his argument was that 6 hours go by, that there was a window of 6 hours between the time of the attacks and when the IDF was, had boots on the ground or whatever. Like, I can't remember the specifics, but 6 hours keeps coming up in this theory. And I got to say, like, it's, without having those numbers in front of me, it's compelling considering that, even some conservatives, Tucker Carlson's another example, of a Republican fundamentalist Christian who broke with Trump and Israel on this. And it's like, what, you can't make this stuff up. Like, they have no motive to lie from what I see.
We did all this thing about AI, and we didn't touch upon the Epstein files.
Have we brought it up in past episodes? Well, obviously, we're going to get into it again. Let's.
Yeah, maybe we can do that on Saturday.
Oh, let's do it on Saturday because talking about conspiracy theories, like there's, as I'm sure you've seen, people are connecting him with the state of Israel, and because we're learning more about what Epstein was doing in concert with or in association with Israel. So yeah, let's get into all that. Or we can stay away, if you want. We can stay away from Israel and just talk about Epstein.
We can do Epstein.
Yeah.
Yeah, Epstein is a very complicated guy. I mean, it's almost like if you got tied up with him, you had to, I'll put it to you this way. Let's say you're a cop, okay? This is why I view Epstein. And he's like a dirty cop. And you knew it. You knew this about him, like in Training Day, that movie. So, you're in with this guy, and you're in a room, and it's like the room is consisting of like you and two other cops. So it's like the three of you, okay? Mm-hmm. And there's like, $1 million in cash. Mm-hmm. And Epstein says, I am going to divide this 3 ways between all 3 of you, the 3 of us. And so you walk out of the room, and he's got something on you already, because like you can't talk, because he'll just send you. If I get caught, I'm gonna tell you that he's the other guy that took the other third.
Right.
So that's why I think he's got everybody like nervous, because they've got the pictures, the videos, the accounts, everything. And like Clinton, I don't know if you saw he testified, and the question was asked, were you ever on Epstein Island? Mm-hmm. And his response was no. Then they said to him, because, well, Virginia
Giuffre, yeah.
The one that committed suicide.
Right.
She said she saw you on the island. Well, what reason would she have to lie? And his lawyer quickly said, we're not going to answer that. He has no way of knowing what was inside her head.
Wow.
So, I mean, I have to believe the girl.
Yeah.
She wouldn't have any reason to lie, and I have to believe that this, Clinton was on that island.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I mean it gets, and then from there it becomes that much easier to imagine, the possibility of the Clintons' involvement in Epstein's possible murder, which is another thing you and I have definitely not talked about yet, is the question of whether you believe he committed suicide or whether he was murdered. I mean, because going back to your point, I mean, there's so much evidence to suggest that that a big part of his motive for getting involved with young prostitutes in the first place was purely for blackmailing the powerful elites of the world for his own benefit, so that they would, their hands would be tied in the event that they ever wanted to press charges against him for anything. And so, to me, that only strengthens the theory that he was murdered, that it wasn't suicide, because he's got all these people who want him dead before he's singing like a canary.
And this young girl that committed suicide, you kind of wonder about her too.
Oh God, of course, yeah. That had to have been a murder, for a very similar reason, yeah.
And if you're involved with the Clintons, I don't know, you gotta watch yourself, because
Exactly.
bad things happen to these people.
No, right. That's, you totally you just reminded me. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, those stories have been around since the 90s, huh? Like,
remember Vince Foster?
I was just gonna say Vince Foster. Yeah.
The guy committed suicide in that park, and they never found the bullet. It's like he got. How can you not find the bullet?
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
It's just bizarre.
I totally forgot about that story. Yeah, the Clintons, man. And then there are memes floating around about Hillary being the mastermind of it's. You can't make this stuff up.